Hello, my name is Ben Griffin and today we are driving the McLaren 600 LT. Ooh, a bit special. Given that the 600 LT was born in Woking, you would forgive McLaren for doing a more local launch. Budget hotel, tea and scones and a quick drive around Surrey. Job done. But instead I'm at the Hungary F1 circuit because for one thing, McLaren thinks it's going to highlight just how capable this car is, and also because I can break the speed limit without getting told off. The plan for the day was simple. 6 sighting laps in the 570S, which is one of my favourite McLarens to drive because it's actually usable on British roads, and then 2 7-ish lap sessions in the 600 LT. Plus a lap to film the car at lunchtime, which meant, sadly, no tea and scones for me. Now it's worth noting that McLaren does not bestow a car with the LT, short for Longtail, name lightly. This is actually only the 4th time the British manufacturer has done so, after the P1 GTR LT and then the 675 LT Coupe and Spider. Despite belonging to the lowly sports series, the 600 LT is well equipped to fulfill its purpose, which is to go around a track as fast as humanly possible, for a road car anyway, and make you grin like you just won the national lottery. To make that happen, the 600 LT has been made up to 100 kilograms lighter than the 570S, depending on options, and that gives it a class-leading dry weight of 1,247 kilograms. As you can see from the list, the weight-saving measures are numerous and in some cases not especially user-friendly. Forgo the glove box and door bins, for instance, and you gain 1 whole kilogram. To be honest, you'd be better off going on a diet. You also get actual aerodynamic trickery. Unlike the 570S, which was downforce neutral, the 600 LT generates 100 kilograms of weight at 155 miles per hour, which is good for stability and cornering. Achieving said downforce was enabled by fitting a new and more dramatic rear spoiler and a larger rear diffuser, the latter of which made possible because the 600 LT is 74mm longer, 47mm of that at the rear, and 27mm at the front. And in case you hadn't noticed, it also sits 8mm closer to the road and there are new side sills. As for power, a cheeky engine remap provides an extra 29 brake horsepower, giving the 600 LT a power-to-weight ratio of 474 bhp per tonne, which isn't exactly shabby. All of that equates to utterly ridiculous performance. Zero to 62 comes and goes in 2.9 seconds, and 0 to 124 in 8.2. To put that into perspective, in a straight line the 600 LT would beat the pricier 911 GT2 RS and the Ferrari 488 GTB. And given all that aero trickery, it's gonna be pretty effective when things get twisty as well. Not wanting the brakes to feel left out, McLaren has added the carbon ceramic stoppers from the 720S and, for added feel and control, the brake booster from the Senna. In doing so, braking from 124 to 0 needs just 117 metres. 17 metres more than its 789 brake horsepower and 750,000 pound sibling. As for the tyres, you get Pirelli Trofeo Rs, which are grippier and less skittish than the coursers on the 570S I tested first. Said tyres are bespoke to the 600 LT, but they're basically the same as what you get on the Senna. All in all, 23% of the 600 LT's components are new compared with the 570S, which is impressive when you consider that both look pretty damn similar. The interior, meanwhile, isn't that different either. That is, unless you spec the beautiful and actually rather comfortable Senna seats, which are basically thin slices of carbon fibre with some padding stuck on. What really matters when spending $185,000 on a race car for the road is, of course, how the thing drives. And the answer is, well, blistering, and yet easy, even for a mere mortal like me. So here we are in the McLaren 600 LT, which is the 570S's much more leery sibling. 600 PS, 457 odd foot-pounds of torque. It's a bit of a weapon. 3.8 litre twin turbo engine.
found in other McLarens. And already you can hear it is considerably louder than the standard 570S. It's also much more immediate. You get far less turbo lag on this car, which means it's much easier to get the power on when you want to, as opposed to sort of guessing mid-corner and then away you go. The Hungaroring is quite a technical circuit, but this car makes it so easy, it's so accessible, and yet wanting to maximise this thing is going to take a lot of practice. It's just so much more involving. We did 5 or so sighting laps in the 570S, and that is a really fun car, and they've tried to make this more fun as well. But having driven the Senna, this thing is much closer to that. The steering is much more precise, much faster. The acceleration is far more brutal, and there's more grip as well. In fact, there's 100 kilograms of downforce extra on the 570S. And also, if you spec the right kit, you've saved 100 kilograms of weight as well. Although that does mean not having aircon, and not such a good thing in Hungary when it's 28 odd degrees. But that new exhaust system as well, much louder, to the point where the audio might not be the best quality, but it's not often you get to drive a car like this. So you've got to film it, haven't you? Get that power on early, rev so high before you have to shift, and already 220, 230 kilometers an hour before you're back on the brakes, which are borrowed from the 720S with, I believe, the Senna booster, which just gives you that little bit more pedal feeling and bite. And the result is you can chuck the car into corners far quicker, and then of course with the extra power you're coming into the corners faster anyway. It's not a bad thing to have that extra reassurance. It's remarkable over steering. It's obviously in a supercars are obviously super, it's in the name, but if you drive something like a single seater or something where all the weight's been stripped out, things are so immediate, and yet this really does give you a taste of that brutal lightweight race feel. And actually, for the power, this thing is as quick as a Ferrari 488 GTB, Huracan Puffermonte, even the Porsche 911 GT2 RS. I mean, this thing for 185,000, before you put anything on it, that is really quite special. Even when you sort of nudge the chicanes a bit much, the suspension, even in the track setting, it's still a very competent setup, one that borrows again from the 720S. You get the ride comfort, but equally the car is just that much firmer. There's barely any body roll at all, so you can really feel the chassis, which makes it a whole lot easier to back off when you need to. It's so quick.
In short, to say the McLaren 600LT is faster than the 570S only tells part of the story. The whole thing is just snappier and more immediate. Turbo lag is much less of an issue, and the sound it makes is just excellent. But then it should be when those upward facing exhaust exits are that close to your ears and the rear windscreen is thinner than usual. So the 600LT looks the part, drives the part and sounds the part. But what's it like on the road? Well, unfortunately I can't give you the answer to that because this was a track only event. Although being lower and stiffer will no doubt harm its day-to-day, or should I say weekend-to-weekend, usability. One issue I can talk about is that the 600LT is decent value in its basic spec, but for it to shine means spending way over the 185,500. My air-conditionless ceramic grey MSO painted test car was fitted with, wait for it, £60,444 worth of extras. That's just about enough to buy you an Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, but sadly, not enough to keep it on the road. You could also argue that the lack of practicality compared to the 570 GT harms its versatility at anywhere but a track. And how often will you use your 600LT for some apex antics? If the answer is hardly ever, you may want to step away from your checkbook. The thing is though, the 600LT is the closest thing to the Senna, not just in the McLaren range, but supercars in general. So even if you tick every option box, you're getting a cut price circuit owning monster that is only slightly slower and and slightly less effective in the hands of an untrained driver than a hypercar. One that costs 4 times as much, remember. To that end, the 600 LT is a bargain. And the good news is that McLaren is only limiting production to 1 year, as opposed to a certain number of units. Although with a lot of new models coming before 2025, that production line may not have too much space, so if you want one, you better hurry up. What I like best about the 600 LT though is that it is hugely exciting to drive, something that could not be said of some of the British manufacturers' previous creations. And unlike a Lambo or Ferrari, McLaren seem much less likely to get some jealous lout throwing McDonald's chips through your window. And that alone is priceless. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit subscribe, like, comment below, and of course click that little bell button because then you'll be notified when another video lands. And there are many on the way, so stay tuned guys, thanks for watching.